basic background of Parkinson's.
Okay, so Parkinson's is a progressive nervous system disorder. Yep. And so it affects people's movement, and over time, all the symptoms will increase and get worse. Some symptoms that are included would be tremors or shaking or slurring of the speech and stiff movements. So, yeah. There is possibility to improve symptoms, but there is not necessarily a cure. Medications can improve symptoms, and so can surgery, possibly. Things that are notable in the brains of people with Parkinson's are the presence of Lewy bodies, which are like clumps and masses of substances within the brain cells. And so that's a mark of Parkinson's disease, basic background.
So, getting into the signaling mechanisms and signaling pathways of Parkinson's. So the signal mechanism of Parkinson's is dopamine, and dopamine levels decrease, or as dopamine levels decrease, abnormal brain activity happens, and so dopamine affects like the movement of people, and it sends like the response sends signal to brain pathways. If dopamine isn't present, then the normal reactions can't take place. Let's see. So the type of receptor in Parkinson's is the neurotransmitter dopamine, and it's that's the primary ligand, and then you just have dopamine receptors. And then for the basics of transduction pathway, it's basically the exact same as the pathway of a normal brain, except for the fact that you have decreased dopamine levels, which affects certain movements and compartmentalization factors of the brain and movement and things like that. And then, for the cellular response, if a cell that has Parkinson's or lower levels of dopamine, it can have responses such as apoptosis, where the cell dies, or the cell will shrink, or do this thing called blebbing, which is an irregular bulge in the plasma membrane of the cell. And so, in an ideal brain, or one that's functioning properly, the correct mechanism of a brain is you would have the correct amount of dopamine, and your dopamine levels would be sufficient, and they would be sending out correct signals to various other nerve cells, and you would be able to signal muscle contraction and things like that, and you would have the correct formation of CAM molecules, which affects your movement. And that is your basic transduction pathway of Parkinson's.
Cool. All right. And so for the faulty mechanisms in Parkinson's would be relating to the idea that the loss of brain cells in this disease. And so ways this could happen would include a faulty mechanism that's included in Parkinson's would be the abnormal accumulation of proteins building up and binding to ubiquitin, and so this directs all the protein to different compartments. Another one could be the fact that there's a lack of mitochondrial activity, so all of those would be a part of the faulty mechanisms in the disease. And so also going to now what we focus on for research dealing with Parkinson's now, scientists are looking into fetal stem cell transplantation. So in fetal stem cell transplantation, fetal stem cells are placed in the patients to replace the dopamine-releasing cells that were causing the issues in the first place. But issues that are arising with that is that they're finding that these fetal stem cells release too much dopamine, and so they're causing involuntary movements. So that's not good.
It's really a con, if you will.
A con. So stem cells are also something that scientists are really focusing right now. Another part of current research that scientists are focusing on are stem cells, because stem cells can be turned into any type of cell that scientists want, and so they are hoping that they can turn these stem cells into regular neurons and cells so that they can basically essentially cure Parkinson's, and so that's what they're looking on for that. Yes, so that they can produce dopamine. Also, they're looking into calcium channel blockers. And the reason that scientists are looking into calcium channel blockers are because they believe that the dihydropyridine calcium channel blockers would protect against Parkinson's disease in the first place. So that is why they're looking at all of those things as well. Is that it?
Okay, and then maybe we can pathway to Parkinson's. Dopamine levels.
And binding to the receptors, and then normal people. Wait, I can't see which ones. These are normal people and the amount of dopamine that normal people would have, and this is the level of dopamine that people with Parkinson's would have. So they have a lot and they don't.
And then this is a little pathway that shows your G protein couple receptors and your dopamine levels and
all
your
that good
G
stuff.
protein secondary messengers. It's basically the whole pathway to Parkinson's right there. Our whole board. One picture. Phenomenal.
Parkinson's. And if there